everybody! So today I decided that I was going to be productive and make a video dedicated on how I groom my brows and also how I fill them in. I know that with times of quarantine, it is really hard to, actually it's impossible, to go out and get your brows done. So these are some things that you can do at home to kind of tame your brows and make yourself feel a little bit normal. So if that's something you want to learn, you want to see how I do my own brows, then please keep watching. So the first thing that I do with my brows is I use a spoolie. Let me see if I can find one. I should have probably been more prepared. Okay, so I use a spoolie. This is a brush with a spoolie on the other side. And the first thing I do is I brush my brow hairs up. Just all the way up. I did this the other day, so there's not a lot to trim, and I'm probably not going to trim very much, but with that being said, I'm just going to go through the process. So you need a spoolie. I also have these little scissors. They're cuticle scissors that I got from school, but you can get like brow scissors, small little scissors like this work perfect. Please don't use like craft scissors. They're not going to cut your brow hairs evenly, and it's going to be a mess. So definitely get little scissors, little cuticle scissors, whatever it is. Use these. These will cut your hair, the hair on your brows a little bit more evenly. So the first thing I do is I brush all these brow hairs up, because what I'm gonna do is create a guide, and I'll use the scissors, and all of the hairs that are longer than what I want, I'll trim. So right now I don't have a lot, but if I was to trim them, I would trim straight across, and then all of these hairs I would trim straight across, because I'm trying to keep that little angle. So that's the first step. Second step is you'll brush all the hairs down. I'll look in the mirror to see what I'm doing. And all of the hairs that are like hanging lower, like if these brow hairs were like really dropping low, I would trim them. So I would trim all of this and all of this, and then I would just trim it back, or brush it back to normal to see how the shape's looking. So that's the first thing you can do. You can just trim your brows, and that'll keep your shape nice and neat, and it'll also give you kind of like a guide on where to start and finish. So that's the first thing that I do. Now when I'm doing my makeup, I like to use a brow pencil on myself. And the only reason I like to use a brow pencil on myself is because I feel like I need more of a pigmented product to help fill in these ends. Because again, as I was saying before, I plucked my brows to the point where I didn't have any brows. So I've been growing this out and trimming it along the way, but I still need a pencil to give me more impact. When I'm doing client makeup, I like to use powder because it gives me a softer brow, and it also helps me kind of tailor the color perfectly for them, whereas a brow pencil is a little bit more difficult to match color-wise with other people. With powders, I have a little bit more versatility. I can kind of cater it more towards them. So that's the first thing I need. I use a brow pencil. This is the Precisely My Brow Pencil from Benefit. I really like this pencil because it's teeny tiny, and it really helps me create hair-like strokes. And it also has a spoolie on the end. This spoolie is awesome. So that's the first thing that we're gonna need. Why am I nervous? What's wrong with me? The next thing we're gonna need is concealer. So hopefully I can find mine. I'm trying to keep it neat. I have this like weird setup. I'm trying not to knock the camera. So you'll need concealer. I use Tarte Shape Tape. This is the best concealer I've ever used in my entire life. It's super creamy, super pigmented, or super opaque, so it covers everything. It's great. And then we'll use a concealer brush. This is just a concealer brush that I got like 10 years ago from Sephora. It's rounded and flat. It does the job. Anyways, moving on. So when you're filling your brows in, this is how I do it. If you do it a different way, awesome. Please share it with me. I would love to hear how you guys do your brows, but I do get a lot of questions about how I fill them in, so I'm going to tell you how I do my own brows. And it's very similar to the way that I groom it. So the first thing I do is I brush the hairs down. I know that when you're grooming your brows, you brush up, you want to brush down first that's going to help me create that top line. So I'm going to brush my hairs down. And that's going to give me a guide on where I'm going to create that line. So I'm going to go in. I have to look at the mirror, but I'm also going to show you up on the camera. I'm going to make a line. Make sure those hairs stay down. Sometimes they get in the way. Of where I want that, like the thickness of the brow to start. So if you look at my right brow, you can kind of see where the hairs naturally grow. And that'll give me a line on how I want that brow to shape. So my goal now is to try to get this brow to look like this brow. So I'm just going to create that line. I like more of a rounded brow because I do have such a square face. I need some angles to kind of guide me. And don't worry if it's not perfect right away. We're going to go in with concealer to clean it up. So I'm going to do the same thing on this brow. Just creating that line. I hope you can see. I'm trying to keep those hairs down. You can see where I'm really sparse. So that's where I'll focus on filling in a minute. Right now we're just focusing on creating a guide to follow. And then I kind of brush the hairs back to normal just to see how it's looking, and then I'll go through and kind of fix it if it's not totally right. Okay, that's looking pretty even. So now I'm going to brush the hairs up. And what I'm doing now is I'm going to create after I've created that line on top, I'm going to create a line on the bottom. So basically what we're doing is, if you remember when you were coloring when you were a kid, you would start on the outside, create a line, and then color from the inside. We're going to do the same thing with our brows. The difference is I am leaving space. I am not drawing anything right in this front area where I'm kind of finer in the hairs because I want that to be light. We're going to do that last. So when you're starting your brow, fill in, create that line where the brow hairs are more dense. So I'm leaving this area. Leave that alone. Don't touch that. But start your line right where it starts to get a little bit darker, because that, you naturally have hair that grows darker in that area. You want more of a darker line in that spot. So tip number one. I guess it's not tip number one, whatever. So now I'm going to brush the hairs up and I'm going to start creating that line underneath. So I'm going to start where I said before in that really dense area. And I'm going to start the line there. And I'm just going to go straight across, kind of following where the hair naturally grows. And then this tail area, I'm more sparse. So I'm kind of doing like a parallel line on this area. I am going a little higher to create an arch, but I'm creating a parallel line and I'm going to intersect them and kind of make like a angle right here. I like a sharp brow. So I'm going through and connecting. Do not worry if it's not perfect right away. That's why we have concealer. So you can kind of see I'm getting more of a brow shape, whereas before I was half a brow. So we'll go through and make it a little darker. I want the more, the end of my brow to be a little bit more dark. So that's kind of where we're at. You see we kind of have like a little base to go through. So I'm just going to do the same thing on the other brow. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start filling in. And I'm going to start in that denser area. And I'm just doing more like quick stripes. Like, not stripes, but like flicks with my wrist. So quick flicks in that dense area. Again, I'm leaving that front spot blank because I'll go through and really blend that. So now I'm going to take the spoolie and work that product through. I'm going in horizontally and working that product through. I'm just blending it to make it more soft, so I don't have to continuously fill. It's gonna make the brow look more soft. So I'm dragging that product over. You see how it kind of filled in that area without me having to put pencil strokes there? That's what you want. So I'm gonna do the same thing, working that through. So now I'm gonna do the same thing on the tail. So hair-like strokes, quick movements, quick, 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 quick. And I am pushing a little bit harder on this outer area because I want it to be more darker. Not more dark. What's wrong with my brain? Listen, quarantine is making my English ridiculous. I'm just losing brain function. This process is the exact same. So you're just going to take the product or the spoolie and work that product through, making sure that all of that space is covered. We're basically coloring our face. And then I like to go through and kind of deepen up that line that I created to begin with, because when you're blending you kind of lose it. And I'll do the same thing over here. I already filled that, so I'm going to blend it. Kind of see where we're going. And I'll go through and deepen that line. Now, this is the last part that I do with the brow pencil. I'll go through really lightly, like literally like barely touch it. And I'm going to connect that line to the front of my brow. Just on the bottom, not on the top. And then I will take my spoolie and I'm going to go vertically, and I'm going to push up because I'm trying to mimic the hairs and kind of create a shadow. You don't want to drag down, you want to drag up because you're going to mimic those hairs. And that makes a shadow. I kind of wipe. I don't know why, but I do it every time. And we're slowly working it through because we want it to be more diffused. So flicking upwards, mimicking those hairs. Kind of touching that line up because I do kind of move it around. And then we have a start. Anyways, okay. Now the last thing I do, again, you want really light pressure, and I'm just kind of mimicking hair. So I'm touching down on that line and flicking upward. Doing the same on this brow. And flicking upward. Then I'll take my spoolie again and blend it. Okay. So that's kind of how I do the brows to start, and then I'll go in with concealer and I'll clean that line up and make it nice and sharp. And this is literally the last thing I do. So I'm going to go in with my brush. Just take a little bit of product. A little goes a long way with the Shape Tape. I'm sweating. Okay. I tap on my eyelid to get most of the product, and then very lightly go underneath that bottom line we created to clean it up. And this is where you need to be a little bit more precise. I hold my hand here for support. And that just makes it look a little bit more clean. And this helps me prime my lids for eyeshadow. So I'm just gonna go through and blend that line. Get that concealer all over my lid. I'm really warm, so my face is turning red. I'm gonna get a little more concealer. And just work the rest of it onto my eyelid. I really get into that inner corner area because it gets real dark. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other eye really quickly. And another thing that I do often is I kind of do the same thing. I'll go over on the top of the brow. I don't get any additional product. I just kind of use what's left and just make it a little bit more sharp on the tail. So if I get a little blend happy, this just helps me clean everything up. I really like a pointy tail. I don't know why. I just feel like it looks nice. It's a little more dry on this one. So I'm just gonna mimic that top line and then really make that end sharp. So now I'm just gonna blend the concealer. Just using Beauty Blender. It's dry. Just really trying to get rid of those lines. My eye is watering. Okay, so that's how I do fill in my brows. After I've done my face makeup and stuff, I'll go in with a brow gel and really set that brow. I don't want to do it now because I am going to do the rest of my face. But I use the NYX Tinted Brow Mascara. It's really nice. It gives me like a good hold, keeps my brows from going anywhere, and it also softens that line. So that's how I do my brows. I know it's a lot. It took me a long time to explain it, but that's kind of how I do my brows. So a good indicator of like the shape of your brow is to look, get like a straight line. So for purposes of showing, I'll kind of show you how your brow should line up. The beginning of your brow should line up with the edge of your nose. So if you look, it lines up with the edge of my nose, straight up. The outside of your brow should line up with the outer part of your nostril and the outer corner of your eye. And then the arch of your brow should start, not always, but sometimes, or most of the time, the arch of your brow will line up when you're looking straight forward with the outer corner of your iris. And that's where your arch should be. And then just check for balance. Mine's not totally balanced because I do have a downturned eye, but it should be pretty balanced straight across. So if you want to be crazy, you can check and see that it's all lined up perfect. And that's it. That's how I do my brows. So if you like the way this looks, then try for yourself. And if you do decide to adapt this to your own beauty routine, definitely take a picture and send it to me or post it and tag me in it. I would love to see your recreations. And if you like videos like this and you feel like you learned something, let me know and maybe I'll make more because I have some time in quarantine. So thanks for watching. Bye.